So there's a clip that has been going around again. A few years ago is when it came out. And they cut out all the parts where I said, you know, pedophilia is disgusting. And they put it together and it made it seem like I was, you know, talking about how it's normal. So gross. I would never say that. But also, I shouldn't have been joking about it anyways, which is my problem, my fault. So I'm sorry if you heard that. There's also other ones too. I mean, and that's something I have addressed before, but my childhood, my past, I've had a lot of pain. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me. I've had a lot of issues with my family. And I took that pain and I turned it into jokes. And I think instead of joking about them so much, I probably should have just went to therapy earlier and talked about them. I swear on my life, I am not somebody who would ever talk about a child, like in seriousness. I would never talk about a child in any way that was inappropriate. That is disgusting, that is gross, it is not something I would ever do. It is something I did for shock value or because I thought it was funny or like, oh my God, my child molester character or whatever. It's all gross and I promise that is not real. That is not me. Have I done sketches where kids were saying crazy things? Yes. Do I regret it? Yes. Even I saw a vlog clip of me and my cousin who was, I don't know, probably 12 or 13 at the time. And we were, you know, I was doing the birds and the bees talk. Dumb, gross shit. And I remember a few years ago, I reached out to her mom, my aunt, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Like, this is insane. I can't believe I talked to, you know, my cousin like that. And, you know, she was like, oh my God, we know. It's okay. It was funny. Like, we all thought it was funny. Like, that's just how our family is. So I kind of took that as like, okay, well, then I don't need to apologize for it. But I do, because I posted it on the internet for everyone, not just my family. I posted like a stupid, weird family moment for everyone. I'm so sorry that I just was so thoughtless with things I was posting for so many years. I don't know. I wasn't thinking. I thought, oh, I'm in a weird category where I can say whatever I want. And I did. And now it's the biggest regret of my entire life. All of it. Now, even though my apologies in the past for all of these things have not been good enough, they've not been thought out, they've been very fear-based, they've been not good at all. I do want to say, since I've apologized for those things in the past, I have made a lot of changes in my life, changes in just every facet of me has changed. I'm not just saying it, I'm not just saying, oh, I'm gonna stop doing that, guys. I did stop doing that.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. My voice is gone, by the way. I'm going to talk to you guys about Dawson. You already know who I'm talking about. We're talking about Jada and Jaden Smith. Comments that were made on Twitter earlier on last night. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for the notification of the uploads, and for those of you returnees, you got the minerals, we're going to get into this video. So we know that obviously Shane Dawson has been kicking up a fuss on social media, not him per se, but people have been dragging him out. And I think you guys, if you've been following me, you've heard me say, this is the year of justice, okay? 2020 is a year of justice. This is the air I breathe. Like, God is just doing bits, all right? And there's nobody that's being left spare, yeah? 2020, the year of good vision. We're gonna see clearly. I can see clearly now. The rain has gone. But I'm not here to bust no jokes. I want to be very, very serious now because we're going to talk about something. Everyone's talking maybe about the racism aspect. I'm not going to talk about that. As far as I'm concerned, he can blackface all he wants. Let's talk about some real stuff. Pedophilia, okay? Now, if you've also followed me for a long time, I've spoke about this, that the increase of trying to normalize pedophilia within the media is starting, okay? And has been for a few years now, right? And so we see Shane Dawson as one of these big YouTubers, got what? How many million viewers, subscribers, all right? And obviously the old videos are surfacing from people not forgetting what happened, okay? And they've been dragging up these very incriminating, let me just be very, very real, sickening videos. So one of the videos that we obviously saw was obviously of him jacking off, or should I say, sorry, masturbating to Willow Smith's poster. Now, I don't care what anybody says. This is not 2000s, oh, in the 2000s we did stuff like this. No, this was pushing the line, and nobody saying anything because nobody felt that everyone was coming with a form of ignorance.
Oh, whip your hair back and forth. Oh.
Right? It's a bit like how we see on Twitter And people say, oh, in 2012, it was all about cussing black girls and it was funny. No, it was never funny. It was never funny. Like, we didn't do them things, right? There were certain people that were doing it because they were bullies. Simple as, okay? And they were setting the cultural standard, okay? And you have to understand the thing about morality. Morality is set by the society that we live in. This is why God is so important. This is why Jesus Christ is so important, because the standard doesn't shift, but the standard will shift with society. Let me give you an example. And I don't want anyone to be offended, but you might be offended, and I can't do anything about it. The history states that previously, beforehand, up until 1973, that homosexuality was a mental disorder, okay? And then after 1973, BDSM, or DSM, sorry, DSM, they actually then declassified homosexuality, saying that because it wasn't hurting anybody and because there was consent to it, they weren't going to class it as a mental disorder anymore, right? And so the same thing, let me just tell you now, the same thing has happened in 2013 now. They are now separating paedophilia from, paraphilia from paedophilia disorder, okay? And so now they've made a distinction, okay, between the two. I'm going to come on to Dawson, but I want to bring this into, because you would have seen in the last few years far more stories about paedophilia coming out, and here's why. In 2013, they declassified paedophilia. What I mean by that is that they separate. So they said paraphilia is to have a sexual urge, a sexual desire towards children, but having sexual deviancy. Let me even get the actual definition for you guys. Paraphilia is different from paraphilic disorder. So it's unusual sexual deviations, unusual fantasies, urges or behaviors that are reoccurring and sexually arousing. Urges must occur for at least 6 months and cause distress to the individual in order to become a paraphilic disorder. So what they're saying is this: they don't mind if necessarily you're going to masturbate to child pornography, because you never harmed anybody in that, yeah? And you never felt bad about it, yeah? You never felt like you were conflicted in your mind. You thought it was okay. And even though society may disagree, so long as you didn't feel conflicted, right, it's not a disorder. This is what they've gone into now, yeah? They're saying basically, if you didn't harm nobody, okay, let me break what they say. They said interest and desire produces significant. In order for it to be a disorder, it needs to have interest, desire, producing significant distress or social impairment. Social impairment just means not picking up on normal social cues. First of all, I don't know how you can, I don't know how, even if a child consents to this, how it cannot be that you're not picking up on normal social norms, unless the normal social cues change. Okay, difficulty in understanding that others may see things differently, difficulty getting close physically and emotionally to other people, not recognizing on the faces of others or in the tone of a voice and body language, so for reasons unrelated to social disapproval. And so what they're saying basically is that so long as obviously you're not hurting someone in the harm, one of the reasons why it's not a disorder anymore is if you don't harm anybody in the process. The word is so mad. You don't harm somebody in the process, then it's not going to be considered a disorder. You didn't act on your urges. So long as you kept it within yourself, there are people who are quote unquote sleeper cell pedophiles, right? And necessarily they're not even pedophiles because they're suffering with a sexual urge, but they're not doing anything with it. So therefore they're not a danger to society. They just need therapy, right? It's crazy. I mean, at what point does someone go from being having paedophile urges to now acting upon it? We don't know. Do you understand? So they're making this distinction on purpose because they're about to. This is how the same thing they do with homosexuality. They're about to now declassify it, right, and bring it into normality. I'm sorry, I have to tell you this. Now, when it comes to Dawson, as well, he made several jokes about paedophilia across the board, right? Even saying himself, even calling himself a paedophile for jokes, yeah? This ain't a joke, blood, do you understand? All right, cool. And then we see, obviously, in terms of the Willow situation, what actually happened was that this video that he put up, he was here masturbating to a poster of Willow. And obviously, this particular video then was taken years ago. He's since taken it down, and then it resurfaced again. And obviously it got into the hands of Jaden Smith, and obviously Jada Smith as well. And actually, they commented back, and let me just read what Jaden actually said. So let me just read what he said. Shane Dawson, I am disgusted by you. You are sexualizing an 11-year-old who happens to be my sister. It's the furthest thing from funny and not okay in the slightest. He said, this man has also been doing blackface on the regular. As a youth, we need to support creators who support us and our morals. This is not okay. And then Jada Pinkett Smith said, to Shane Dawson, I'm done with the excuses. Now, Shane Dawson also then posted up a video of apology. Let me just be very, very real. There is no apology for this. This needs stamping down upon, right? This needs therapy. He needs to be. I'm not gonna say sectioned. I'm gonna say that he needs to be in therapist's hand immediately. Because we don't, these jokes, you see, people think that these jokes are funny. They're not nowhere near funny. And jokes come from a place of some type of truth. And actually, there was a podcast that was put on that himself. And he says, obviously, someone chopped it up. But I'm sorry, you said some things which just can't be unchopped. Like, bro, you said it. Like, person didn't chop up your words. They took parts of you speaking for periods of time and then put it together. Okay, let's go. So in one of the podcasts, he actually said, he said actually that, you know, he met there was a 6-year-old girl, whatever, on Instagram, and she said she had 125,000 viewers.
First of all, how does a 5-year-old, 6-year-old know what Instagram is?
Right.
Which is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I was embarrassed because yes, I was, and it was a picture of my salad. And the 6-year-old girl goes, oh, how many followers do you have? I have 125,000.
No.
Her dick was almost as big as mine.
Really?
And I said, okay, little big dick, why do you have so many followers? And she goes, oh, I'm a cheerleader. And I'm like, oh, really? And she shows me her Instagrams, which are like, first of all, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like, she's like sexy. She's like sexy.
You're disgusting.
I know. Listen, we've talked about pedophilia
No, this
before.
is Shane. Like, do not say this, and like, I don't even want to talk about it. Like, you will get arrested. Like, he kind of can.
Listen,
he has his
allegedly-
justification for pedophilia,
Okay.
and it's so disturbing. And like, I just pretend that he doesn't.
Okay, wait,
and, like,
no. Let me explain. Let me
No.
explain.
Oh God.
Here's my justification for pedophilia.
I can't.
Here's my thing. People have foot fetishes. People have fetishes about, you know, everything. Fine, everybody do your thing. So why is it when somebody looks at Google's like naked baby on Google and jerks off to it, they can get arrested? I don't understand that.
Because
Here's the worst part of it. I actually went to Google and I'm like, I
Oh,
kind of
God.
want to see.
You could
I don't
get
wanna-
arrested.
I know, but I just wanted to see, like, okay, let me just pretend. Let me pretend like I'm a pedophile for a sec. So I typed in naked baby. First of all, they were sexy. Okay, back to the Instagram. So I look at this little girl's pictures, and she had makeup on. She had her tongue out. She was doing like the peace sign. She was doing a backflip.
Is she like Honey Boo Boo? Is she fat?
No, she was like a skinny little sexy 6-year-old.
And he said she's kind of hot, right? And then obviously said, you know, yeah, that you know that he doesn't understand why society makes it almost like this crime that a man can watch a baby naked or watch a child or whatever do his kind of thing, and it will be a crime. Sorry. See, he doesn't understand this. There was another video where I watched where he was talking about a situation with a paedophilia guy who said the guy had basically said that he had a mental age of a 5-year-old, and so he liked 5-year-olds, and he said he could understand it. And I'm like, blood, regardless of whether you can understand or not, this guy's a grown-ass man. Do you understand? Grown-ass. You feel me? The only thing to understand is that this is abuse, sexual abuse. Pedophilia is a nice language. It's sexual abuse. Simple as that. So there's several videos, even with his cousin, and I'll go into this in another video. Even with his cousin, there was very questionable, and in fact, questionable was being too nice. There were sexual comments that were made about how, yes, I've got many pedophiles on my who watch my show. They want to see you eat this sausage wiener. What, bro? Like, are you okay? Are you all right, my brother? Yeah, because what you're saying right now is a very madness. Yeah, and this is the kind of things he was making as jokes. I'm sorry, and even when his apology came out, his apology didn't really address the paedophilic comments. Yes, he said a few bits in here and there, but it really didn't address the fact that he was paedophilic. Like, I'm sorry, bro, like, you come out and you say those things, you need to fully address the fact that your viewpoints are paedophilic. Do you understand? And it's even with paedophilia, I'll break it down as well. There are different terminologies that they use within paedophilia. So there is 11 to 14-year-olds. They call it epipophilia. It's mad to say it, which is 11 to 14-year-olds, sexual desire for. And then there is also, hepaphilia. Hepaphilia is 11 to 14-year-olds. Epipophilia is then 15 to 16-year-olds, right? And so, you know, these things are broken down, and paedophilia is broken down in 7 points. There are pedophiles who only like children. There are pedophiles who like adults and children. There are pedophiles who like only boys. There are pedophiles who only like girls. There are only pedophiles that like boys and girls. You know what I'm saying? There are different forms when it comes to this. And one of the things that's really interesting is how the BDSM, is it BDSM? How they portray it. So I'm going to read something to you. All right, cool. So, under the diagnostic, I'm going to read something from Encyclopedia Britannica, talking about paedophilia, right? It says here, under this diagnostic scheme, a paraphilia is recognized as paraphilic disorder only if one or more of the following criteria are met. I want you to listen to the language very carefully. It says here, the interest or desire produces significant distress or social impairment in the affected individual for reasons unrelated to society's disapproval. So aside society's disapproval, if they feel like there's a distress in them, then it becomes a disorder. So society shifts their point of view. Why wouldn't somebody who's a paedophile shift their point of view? The only reason why people are feeling bad is because they know this is bad, right? According to morals, when the immorality begins to shift and the society begins to shift and begins to say it's okay, that person will no longer feel a conflict in terms of doing bad, okay? But they're saying that, okay, so long as the person doesn't feel bad and in accordance not with society, but within themselves, if they feel bad, then it's a disorder. Do you know what they're saying? This is part 2. The practice or behavior inherently involves harm to others or directed at unwilling persons or persons who are unable to give legal consent because of their age. In the case of paedophilia, although the interest itself is no longer considered symptomatic of mental illness unless it causes distress in the affected individual and behavioral expression of interest, any attempt at sexual contact with children is sufficient to warrant diagnosis of paedophilic disorder. So at any given moment when you contact a child, you go into paedophilic disorder. That's what it's saying, right? But it's the first wording that is really problematic, right? It says here, the practice or behavior inherently involves harm. Now, the definition of harm, what do we mean by harm here? So if the child is not harmed, you see, because where we're going to go to next is saying, okay, but what child was harmed? Now, if you speak to people, yeah, who are unaware that they were abused, right? They might say in their early years, unless they've been educated, they might say, I didn't feel like I was harmed by the abuse. When I say harmed, I mean I wasn't aware of what exactly was doing. I knew it was wrong, but I wasn't really aware, right? And the person might say, well, you enjoyed it. You weren't harmed, like da-da-da-da. And so then the conversation shifts from being about, because what they want to do is force this narrative of violent rape and violent sexual abuse. This is where they want to point the image to, because if they do that, then it's like, oh, that's a crime, right? Because that was definitely someone against their will. But when you are sly and deceiving and are taking advantage of a child's naivety, and that child wasn't quote unquote, they weren't harmed, okay? You saw there was no forcing, yeah? There was no. I didn't call it. I didn't tell them to come and touch me. They touched me. I didn't even push them, right? All these kind of excuses are gonna start coming up as to why they're behaving the way they're behaving. So this is what I'm saying is a bit crazy. So even though I'm talking about Shane Dawson and his behavior with Willow Smith, it goes into other things because it's problematic. It's across the board. It's dangerous, right? The said thing. Obviously, some people try to defend Shane Dawson by saying, oh, it was a joke, yeah, he didn't really mean it, kind of thing, it's just him being funny. And it's like, though, this is not funny. We can't joke about pedophilia. We can't joke about taking advantage of kids. We can't joke about sexual abuse, let me put it that way. Can't joke about child pornography, can't joke about sexual abuse. These things are out of order. They're to have no place. It's abhorrent and disgusting. And the Bible says we should have no conjoining with the works of darkness. And this is a work of darkness, guys. An absolute work of darkness. You know, and not only that, there's been other cases where I think he made a joke or whether he made a statement about the fact that he abused his cat sexually. And it's crazy because obviously, like, I'm just saying that there's so much sexual deviancy and so much sexual stuff that comes from this guy's mouth on a regular basis. I mean, when you look at the history of his videos, there was so much of it. Now, someone might say, oh, I've grown from that. He was 20 when he said that. 20 or so years. Okay, now let me tell you something. At 20, fully grown, you know what you're doing. There's no way you can say I was a kid then. No, look, there's some things where we say we can't say you were a kid then. There are some things like this where we can't say you were a kid and we allow you to cut oblige. No, you're a fully grown adult and you must be dealt with as an adult. So for me, it's scary because of I know where we're going to and the exposure of him as a YouTuber. Not only just him, but there's going to be others who are coming up. I already told you they're exposing pedophilia in Hollywood. Now what they're going to try and do is now bring in a change of language, linguistical language, and change of law of what consent is and what pedophilia really is, right? They're going to change it because what they want is to normalize it. So Shane Dawson, yes, I'm concerned about Willow, the fact that he made that comment, but I'm also concerned about the fact that this is going to open doors for more of this normalization of pedophilia. Crazy times. You know, I can understand why Jaden and Jada are pissed. I can understand why Jaden and Jada are angry. And I won't be surprised if this is on Red Table Talk. Whether Dawson will get an info, I don't know. But what I do know is that you cannot be sexualizing a child. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, this is why I say I don't like these kind of things where they dress their little kids up like a full-grown adult. Let's stop doing that. Let's stop doing that. They are children. Let them be children. Let them be kids. Let's stop trying to make them like adults. You feel me? Let me leave it there. I don't want to talk too much. But yeah, let's go from there. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's go from there. Appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. You always know that I like to bring some knowledge as well to the table. Watch out for my other 2 reviews about the Dawson situation. We're going to break some things down properly and get into the nitty-gritty. Appreciate you. Stay locked, stay loaded. More love.